Good morning, everyone. I'm Muhammad Ghivary, and this is my partner. Today we will discuss the topic that is the Latino fear of ICE, precisely on the Americanization and the Gatekeeping Nation presence in today's America. Let's start off with one simple question. Can someone be born and raised in America, yet still be treated as a foreigner? For many Latinos, this is their daily life. Not only today, but throughout America's histories. Despite being citizens or long-time residents, they are often treated with suspicion as if their belonging is conditional. This issue isn't just about immigration or law enforcement. It's about how a nation defines who exactly is, who counts as American and who does not. So, what is De-Americanization itself? Now, to understand this concept, we must turn our attention to the historian Erika Lee. In her book, America for Americans, A History of Xenophobia in the United States, released in 2019, she writes that xenophobia in America is not just about fear or hatred, it's about power. She writes, and I quote, "Xenophobia is not just about hate or fear, it is about power, defining who belongs and who does not." This means that xenophobia functions as a system of control to determine who is accepted and who is excluded from the nation. When people are already part of America, be it they are already a citizen or long-time residents, they are still treated as an outsider. Lee calls this exact thing De-Americanization. That is the act that symbolically strips away someone's belonging or identity. Meanwhile, we have also the concept of gatekeeping nation, which she described in how the US government uses its law and policy and institution to decide who can enter, stay, or belong. So, in simple terms, these two concepts can be summarized as gatekeeping is the process, and the Americanization is the result of that process. Moving on, we have the short history of America's gatekeeping, which we will very much need to understand the history of xenophobia that has been very apparent in America. So
actually, we gathered the information about we found that the Americanization and the gatekeeping nation concept in the United States is already been done
already exists
by the first time
from the very first time America itself is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first historical event that we found is the Naturalization Act, which is happened in 1790. This is the first federal law in the United States that established a process for granting citizenship that required the applicant to be a free white person. So this is a good character who had resided in the United States for at least 2 years. This person will be accepted as a citizen in the United States. From the very start, this shows that the belonging in America was racially defined. The next is the 1882, which is the Chinese Exclusion Act. This was the first federal law to ban an entire ethnic group from entering the country. Erika Lee, she writes that the Exclusion Act became the model for future immigration restriction and deportation laws. This it institutionalized the idea that some groups, or by race and nationally, could never truly be American. Next is the Johnson-Reed Immigration Act in 1924. Actually, this law was introduced as national origin quotas, favoring immigrants from Northern and Western Europe, while narrowly excluding Asians, Africans, and Southern Europeans. The United States Consensus was even used to scientifically justify which races were more desirable or more acceptable in the United States. So the next is the Mexican Repatriation Program, which happened through 1929 until 1936. During the economic and political crisis of the 1920s and 1930s, Great Depression?
Yes, it was the Great Depression, as we call it today.
So the Border Patrol launched several campaigns to detain Mexicans, including some United States-born citizens, and expel them across the border. The next is the Japanese-American internment, which happened in 1942. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, over 120,000 Japanese-American, or the 2/3 of whom were United States citizens. They were forced into internment camps. Once again, fear and race combined to redefine who was loyal, who was dangerous, and who was American enough. So the last historical event that we found is the Operation Wetback in 1954. This mass deportation campaign, supported by the United States government, targeted Mexican laborers, including many who were actually United States citizens or documented residents. The operation deported an estimated 1 million people, marking one of the most aggressive examples of anti-Latino gatekeeping in American history. So, these examples really reveal a pattern in here. Whenever the nation faces fears, economic, politically, or cultural, it turns that fear into exclusionary policy. As Erika Lee mentions, xenophobia operates cyclically, defining Americans through who gets left out.
Right, so as we have covered the history of xenophobia, not only specifically for the Mexican or Latin American our brethren there, we see that this pattern of xenophobia has been very apparent in United States history. But of course, many times the Latinos are subjugated to this xenophobic cycle. And the next one we will talk is about Latino equal illegal stereotype. So in the beginning of the 1970s, US media and politicians increasingly framed Mexican migrants as illegal aliens, even though many were legal workers under programs like the Braquero program, where they brought in many Mexican, many Latin American to fund the war effort in 1940s to 1960s. As scholar Leo Chavez has called this, is the Latino threat narrative, a belief that Latinos are inherently unlawful or unwilling to assimilate with the American culture, the American ways. This narrative built a stereotype that undocumented automatically mean Latino, even though immigration violation involved many nationalities. And by the 1990s, political speeches and news coverage made the illegal immigrant image almost exclusively Latino, setting the stage for the fear and racial profiling we are seeing to this day.
So the next thing that we will talk about is ICE as the representation of modern phase of gatekeeping. So after the 9/11 attacks, the United States established ICE in 2003 as part of the Department of Homeland Security. Its original purpose was counter-terrorism and border protection. But over time, ICE's focus expanded from security or shifts from detaining criminal to immigration enforcement, targeting undocumented individuals and indirectly and entire communities. So, a 2025 presidential order titled Protecting the American People Against Invasion claimed that aliens unlawfully present in the United States pose as a threat to national sovereignty and public safety.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals, they're humans. I said, no, they're not humans, they're not humans, they're animals.
So, as you have seen, the video was President Trump, saying that immigrants are animals. That language, the use of particular language really transformed millions of undocumented immigrants into perceived threats regardless of their histories or families. As ICE increased raids and worked more closely with local police, fear spread even among citizens. According to the Assembly NC in 2025, even Latino US citizens approach public places, fearful that ICE might mistake them for undocumented immigrants. As we see, this is only a snippet of what we're seeing every day on news regarding ICE and Latino community. And we must mention that this is not only limited to Latino communities. And imagine that you are someone who lives in America, someone who worked there, someone who has families, someone who has friends for many, many years there. Imagine the American citizens, they themselves are afraid to go outside in their own country. That is what de-Americanization looks like today.
So this is a part of something important that we talk in this video, is it ICE in daily life. So ICE's power isn't just in arrest, it's in the quiet routines it disrupts. So there is actually a program which support ICE's agenda, makes them stronger in the society, which is ICE's 287G program, which is, what do you call it, like
It's a program that allows local police departments to act as federal immigration agents. So ICE's power came from programs such as this. These programs, these policies, it blurs the line between community policing and immigration enforcement, making everyday interaction, traffic stops, accidents, even calling 911 potentially dangerous. Because of this exact program, many Latinos avoid contacting the police entirely, even when they are victims of a crime. This effect goes beyond the legal boundary. Residents avoid public places and stop reporting crimes. Churches and schools has become sanctuaries, the few places where families can breathe freely. But that comfort is being stolen away from them, which also reveals the inequality in freedom in America, which has become conditional, depending on skin color, language, and documentation. As Erika Lee writes previously, that xenophobia is used to Americanize those already within the nation's border. It's not about just the policy of deportation, the policy of immigration. It's about silencing and making individuals invisible. When fear dictates daily behavior, citizenship becomes fragile, something to define rather than something guaranteed to you. In this way, ICE embodies the modern gatekeeping nation. The same logic that once targeted Chinese, Japanese, Muslim, and many more minorities that has come and went through America is now aimed at Latinos. It decides belonging not through law, but through the perception. Because ICE's arrest, they don't need a warrant.
Yeah.
They can just arrest you just by how you look. A matter of whether you are documented, you are legal, you are resident, it matters not to them. They first just capture you based on how they perceive you, how you look, what your nationality is, what your religion is, etc. Okay.
Okay, so the next is the human impact. So how this exact policy is impacting the daily life of Latino communities. So behind every policy, there are families, real families. For many Latinos, ICE is not an abstract institution. It's about a presence that shapes their daily lives.
Next, we will watch a video of a teenager, a 15-year-old, singing in court. So please watch it.
Everyone's saying because everyone is scared. I'm scared that I'm never going to be able to see all my friends again. I'm scared that their parents are going to be gone one day. I'm scared that all of us are going to have to fend for ourselves. I'm scared that one day at school that I'm going to get like held by people that I don't know. People.
So that video really shows us that mixed status of families and family separation is real. It's used to control this community. This means that parents may be undocumented while their children are United States citizens. So when ICE is present, families live with constant fear of separation. A child coming home from school to discover their parents are gone. We found that studies from Pew Research show that over 6.7 million people in the United States actually live in mixed status family, and most of them are Latino. This makes even citizens vulnerable to trauma, anxiety, and long-term mental health effects. And parents hesitate to drive their children to school, mothers avoid hospitals, fearing that their data might reach immigration officials. Even citizens live under quiet anxiety, feeling watched and judged. There is actually some popular sentence in this exact community that captures this topic. So, one woman had told that to the Assembly NC, even Latino United States citizens avoid public places, fearful that ICE might mistake them from undocumented immigrants. So, these fears that actually extends beyond immigration status. It reshapes entire community, changing how people live life more and see themselves.
And we see this human impact is many times in popular and credible news source, like we have seen on screen here. These are just snippets. You can find much more out there every single day. New news are coming out. Like for Washington Latinos, fear of ICE raids is reshaping their lives. ICE crackdown in Chicago causes many immigrants to alter routines, even missing church. ICE agents accused of pepper spraying Illinois parent and their 1-year-old baby. And just yesterday, we saw a news of Latino parent. Their dad was held in their car, and what do you call it? Like they're having seizures while they're in the same car as their baby and their wife.
So, as we can see, truly from this news, ICE's approach is usually so violent, aggressive. This is what we actually worried, and this is what make this topic really matters.
They're not even treating human as human being. They're treating very inhuman, as Donald Trump said, animals. Simple as that. So the impact, there are many impacts on done like psychologically, sociologically, physiologically, physically, mentally, and those are not just the only impact we're seeing. We also see the economic impact here. This is again just a snippet of what we found. Fear of ICE raids drain sales for business in Oakland. Fruitvale is killing business. Trump's mass deportation push is crushing local economies. Latino business collapse under deportation terror. What is happening now is worse than what we experienced during COVID. The thing is, with immigrants, as we see in the history, they are an important source of labor, source of income, source of, what the actual capitalist society needed to work, to do their work. That is. Xenophobia is used to de-Americanize those already within the nation's border, as we see, because of all of this impact of ICE's raids, Trump's policy. This immigrant, they are legal and documented, doesn't feel like they feel like they are not treated, they are not seen as American. That's what De-Americanization is again.
This is what makes this topic ironic.
Yes, very ironic.
The America's contradiction. They define United States, as a nation of immigrants, yet they are building walls and conduct raids on families, which are specific minorities. So they are celebrating diversity, but actually continues to define belonging through race, language, and paperwork. This contradiction between ideal and reality is what Erika Lee calls the cycle of xenophobia. So each generation identifies a new groups as un-America, some groups that not acceptable as American. That's why the De-Americanization isn't just a history, but it's a continuing process, shaping how Americans see one another today. Okay.
So why does this topic really matter? Why does it matter to you? Why does it matter to me? If belonging is still determined by fear or racial identity, then freedom becomes a privilege, not a promise. Because the question of who belongs in America defines more than immigration policy, it defines democracy itself. Understanding De-Americanization reveals how power works in America through law, language, and the politics of belonging. So this topic, the general xenophobia and gatekeeping, is not only limited to America. It's also happening in our everyday society, in our surrounding, in our general continent, in our racial groups. It's a more universal topic that we are seeing, an example of in America, a really bad example at that. So we really must look at this topic with more clearly, Yeah.
So finally, to conclusion, we conclude that the fear of Latino community's experience under ICE is not an isolated issue, It's part of a long pattern historical event in America. From the Chinese Exclusion Act to Japanese internment and Operation Wetback to modern day ICE raids. The logic stays the same, protecting the nation by defining others as threats. This is as Erika Lee reminds us that xenophobia is not just about hate or fear, it's about power, defining who belongs and who does not. America still struggles with that power today. A nation that actually celebrates diversity yet continues to decide who truly belongs through control and law.
All right, that's all for us. That's all from us. Thank you. And if you have any question, do please write it down below. Any comments and critics would be greatly appreciated. We are very sorry for mispronouncing and saying wrong things again and again. And that's it from us. Again, thank you and have a good day.